earlier, I had my first ever Kando evaluation for my Spanish language class. So you heard it right. Katong wala nakabalo. One of the courses that I'm taking in the spring semester, which is now, is Spanish language, and the other one is international education, and there's a third one that's coming, but everything is not yet final, so I'm still waiting for the decision if they are going to allow me to take the subject. So yeah, I'm taking Spanish language class, and after 2 weeks of our classes, since it started just this morning, I had to take my Kando evaluation. So they call it Kando evaluation. So of course there are learning objectives like set for the 2 weeks, first 2 weeks, and then after 2 weeks I had to take Kando evaluation. That is to primarily see if I can already do those learning objectives they set for the first 2 weeks. And in the Kando evaluation, I had to do speaking, I had to do listening, and then writing. Of course, with writing, that is where reading is integrated. Actually, reading is also integrated in all the three macro skills. So you can see reading heavily involved in all of those macro skills, other macro skills, speaking, listening, and writing. Okay, so it's inevitable. I didn't have problems with listening and then writing. With listening, I had to listen to my professor read a passage or a story to me and then answer questions. Okay. On the writing, I had to read a whole paragraph. A passage written in Spanish, and then I have to answer 5 questions that came after. 3 questions are asked in Spanish. All questions are asked in Spanish, but I had to answer the first 3 in Spanish and then the last 2 in English. I was just so happy when I realized that I was able to answer the last 2 questions for writing test correctly, because somehow I struggled a little, or not just little, but I really struggled a lot, because although I was allowed to answer the last 2 questions in English, but then it was so difficult to answer, because of course the passage that I read was completely written in Spanish. Pero mo gid ako masulti, no, dili gid siya lisod. Although I was like talking about my struggle earlier, but then makayon ko ba nga ay dili gid totally lisod or totally unfamiliar para sa usa ka Filipino nga mag-take og Spanish class. That's what I realized today. But this time I want to be honest with how did I fare my writing or my speaking test in the Kando evaluation earlier. Dito ko struggle. I realized that I still have to work a lot so that I'll be able to better produce the language. So, mo gina akong problema. Di pa ako ka-produce the language. So, during the Spanish language Kando evaluation I had earlier for the speaking test, it's like I had to greet my professor, and then ask her name, and then of course reply to me. I may tell my name as well, ask about her major, tell about my major, where I'm from, where she's from, and then what else? I think that's basically all. So what I did is, hola, hola, ¿cómo estás? So that's hello, ¿cómo está? ¿Cómo te llamas? What is your name? Then she said, mi nombre es, or mi llamo Paige, because her name is Paige Williams. And then she asked me E2. So E2 is NU, so I had to say, mi llamo Francis. Mucho gusto. My name is Francis. Nice to meet you. And what's next? I had to ask as well, like about her place of origin, or where she's from. How did I ask about it? She's the one who asked me. Good thing she's the one who asked me first where I am from, because I couldn't remember how to ask the question where the other person is from. So she asked me the question and I had to say, soy de Filipinas. I did very poor in the speaking. So, but then she was saying, that's good, that's good. And then eventually then she asked me about my major, or maybe I was the one who asked her about her major. No, I didn't ask her, but she immediately, continued and say, mi campus de las humanidades. So she's saying that my major is humanities. And then she asked me E2. Then I had to answer her, me, good, I had to remember what she said. So I had to say, mi campo de las educación. No, diba? My major is education. And then what else? I think that's all. So malagi na, ang akong realization after my first ever Cando evaluation in my Spanish language class is that it's not totally difficult or very complicated for a Filipino to take a Spanish language class. Although on my part, I'm still challenged with the production of the language, but I hope I will be able to do so like in the next few days or in the next few weeks. When I say about production of the language, I am actually referring to both speaking and writing the language. So mo lang, nalipay lang ko sa akong kuan sa akong first ever Cando evaluation, because if I think tama ang akong duda, no, siguro ang akong score adto na sa mga 9/10. Or kung dili man siguro 10/10. Oh yeah. Pero dili taman sa 10 ha. Siguro I did 90% or I did 90%, good job in that test. And excited na ako nga motuon sa Spanish because it didn't feel intimidating. It didn't feel very, very complicated. So as students, no, especially ako nga, gibutang ginako akong kaugalingon karon as a foreign language, not anymore a teacher, but a student or a learner. Importante gid kay sa atong mga estudyante nga, I'm talking to foreign language learners nga dili gid nila ma-feel ang fear, ang intimidation, no, kay of course who doesn't want to feel intimidated and afraid about something? We don't want that. Maybe I can elaborate on this thought in some other videos, but as for now, para lang sa buenos dias, adios.